when you find out that the invasion of your home is being funded by who is it? Some United Nations, specifically
IOM,
the IOM,
Red Cross.
Red Cross is involved,
and it's also corporate sponsored.
Doctors Without Borders.
Doctors Without Borders.
Also.
This is just one of the routes, though, because apparently there's like a luxury route.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a couple, depending on what your budget is.
This is one of the routes where most people are coming along. There, some of the Chinese nationals that come across, they get the luxury route, but you still see Chinese nationals in this trip. Let's take a look.
In 2023, nearly 250,000 illegal aliens entered the United States every month. Nearly all of these illegals follow the same mass migration trail that starts in Quito, Ecuador, and ends at the U.S. southern border. So, we decided to follow the trail ourselves. Along the way, we discovered secret Chinese staging hotels, crossed through the world's deadliest jungle, embedded with an illegal alien caravan, rode the Mexican train of death, and finally, were kidnapped by the Gulf Cartel, just hundreds of feet from the United States border. This video will expose the entire illegal alien pipeline for what it is: a United Nations weaponized migration agenda, masquerading as an organic humanitarian crisis. This agenda directly benefits cartels and human smugglers, exposes the United States to incredible geopolitical threats, and could potentially usher in permanent one-party rule.
All right, we'll stop it right there. So there's where they start, in Quito, Ecuador. So you heard, right? Chinese nationals. As we reported here a couple months ago, the entire world is coming through the southern border, coming into the United States. And that's probably not news to many of you, but let's see if I can find. Now, the maps are what are fascinating. The maps that are made available.
Think about the maps with that CPB-1 mobile app.
Yeah. So it's not. Yeah. It's.
So it's giving you like shelter information, maps,
hotels,
appointments
or
for the
motels,
interviews. It uses
safe houses.
It uses geolocation.
Yeah.
So it's got the tech.
And they love Joe Biden. They love him.
Is to direct the masses of illegal aliens to the United States. Consider this map, which shows the route from Colombia to the United States and marks 12 U.S. border crossing points with flags. Many similar maps are distributed by other organizations. This map, distributed by the Red Cross, shows the route from Panama to the United States in painstaking detail. On the back of the map, illegal aliens are encouraged to ride on top of freight trains to reach the United States border. It's worth noting that these maps direct aliens into incredibly dangerous territory, such as the Darien Gap, or cartel-controlled areas of Mexico. If this mass migration program were truly for humanitarian purposes, venturing into such territories would be discouraged. Not only are aliens risking their lives by following these instructions, but the United Nations is indirectly helping organized crime earn untold amounts of money by sending millions of people their way to be smuggled. These same criminal organizations notoriously rape women, rob innocent people, and execute their enemies. After crossing into Colombia from Ecuador, the next stop along the route is the city of Pasto. It was here that we discovered a secret staging point for Chinese illegal aliens headed to the United States. So right now we are in Colombia at the...
All right. I don't want to give too much of their documentary away. You should go check it out.
Yeah, we'll link it below. We also have it in the community post.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
And our Substack article.
Exactly. All right, good work. Okay, now let's get back to Jonathan Lee Rich's Investigate. JLR Investigates at the border. This is Yuma, Arizona. Now this, whether it's secret, this one really doesn't probably qualify as secret. Now there are some we'll show you in a minute that are very clandestine, very locked down and buttoned up. But let's check this one out for a moment. You'll see. This is amazing. It's amazing. It's just blatant out in the open. They're thumbing their nose at you.
I'm out in front of a hotel called the Yuma Cabana Motel, and this hotel is closed to the general public. No vacancy at this hotel, but it is hosting migrants that are in the United States illegally. They get to stay here. Let me turn the camera on and show you what's going on.
Look at all those women and children.
And it's closed in. They're getting some sort of meals or something at this location. some truck, but there's a gate here and they won't let you in. You can't get in. Can't get in. It's closed to the public. And migrants are staying at the hotel in the hotel rooms, and they're coming out to get a meal. Now, what in the world is going on here, folks? What in the world is going on? More people are coming out to get meals. Now, this hotel is closed. Closed. It says no vacancy. What's going on here in Yuma, Arizona?
So there you go. There's Yuma. Yuma Cabana. Down at the Yuma Cabana. Well, tell me.
Billions and billions.
So what do you think? What do you think about that? Right, humanitarian. Right, it's all about humanitarian effort. Now, again, to be clear, there are definitely humanitarian issues at the border, and that's the problem. That's the problem. Because, again, we've got well, probably not many of our viewers, but there are lots of corporations and people who donate regularly to large sums to big charities. The reason I say our audience, probably because our audience is probably probably wiser than that. Because what's happening is you've got companies like Walgreens and CVS and Google and Walmart. They all donate to groups like Doctors Without Borders, the Red Cross, and these are the groups that are being funded and funding this invasion. We're funding our own invasion. So let's see, John. Let's see, a bit right here
In Mission Valley, California, San Diego area. That hotel was specifically for migrants. Now these look like men.
Right. These are not. These are. Do you see this guy here? These are not people that are hungry or in bad shape or starving. These are healthy young men. And as we showed you right at the top of the show, a lot of them, quite a lot of them, are of Middle Eastern descent, and very happy to let you know that they're here too. So there's that. Here's a clip from Yocumba, California. This is where it really gets frustrating to watch what's happening.
Cigarettes. Got cigarettes in his hand. What in the world is going on here in Yuma?
I got too many. There we go. Too many playing here. Here we go.
Migrants coming into the country illegally. Check this out.
Look at this, folks.
I hear the cars coming, so let me reverse.
Here come the coyotes.
We're gonna see something in real time, folks.
Here come the coyotes. That sounds like something a country boy would say, wouldn't it?
We're gonna see something in real time, folks. Look at this. Look at this. In real time. Watch. How's the reception? Is the reception good here? Watch this. We're gonna follow this truck. We're gonna watch it in real time.
Yeah, this was a live stream. I watched this live.
Yeah, he did. He caught this live.
This was the first video I found.
Hey, and it's not hard to catch it live. It happens every single day. The ladder going over the wall, that was,
Just crossed in up here that got dropped off. That are on their way. Look, there's the van. Look. Now watch. We're gonna watch this operation in real time, folks. You won't get this anywhere else. You will not get this anywhere else.
You
folks.
might be
Come on in.
asking too, like, why is the Border Patrol allowing him to do that? And
look,
it
there's
does
another
come
group of
out that
migrants right
the
here that
Border
just
Patrol
crossed in.
is happy that he's there, and they said, get it out there.
for the most part, yeah, they've been encouraging this kind of
See this?
guerrilla journalism,
Of about 30.
or just citizen
We're
journalism.
gonna follow that.
Yeah, I was tripping out. This is the first video that I found of his.
Yeah, this was the first.
And that SUV's right up here.
Summer,
Right here, look.
Summer was having a fit. She was trying to get me to come in and watch it, and I was busy with
engrossed.
something else. And once I saw it, I was glued in too. Let's watch for a minute.
There's another one. Here. Here's another group of migrants that just crossed in illegally. Border Patrol sitting here watching and waiting. We're gonna see this in real time, folks. Watch this in real time.
Now check this out. So he's gonna do is he's gonna let them out, and he's gonna line them up. He's gonna take a picture of everyone, and then take a picture of himself, and that's gonna be his proof that he got his load to the wall,
Proof of life.
right, and through the wall, and then he gets paid.
And look at how the cars are the same.
Yeah, Suburbans generally, or that size vehicle. I mean, sometimes there's 20 people inside and hanging on to these.
Yeah, there's definitely different fleets.
But Jonathan will explain more about how many of these people are coming through just this one breach in the wall.
Here comes another one. Large man. Look at all this. Look at all this. Look at all this, folks. Look at all this. Look at all this. Here it is, folks. Real time. Live. JLR Investigates.
Look at that. How about that, folks? There's your tax dollars at work. What I was trying to say earlier, and I lost my train of thought, was that the reason it's so dangerous, why it's so abhorrent that they're funding this, is because it does cause a spike in human trafficking. It causes a spike in rapes, murders. It's crime. It's criminal. What you're watching is crime, and it breaks the secular law. It breaks the state's law. It breaks God's law. And if you think that I'm wrong on that, just hang on. We'll
And the morale of the enforcement, the people that are on the border, that have to just sit back and watch it.
Yeah. Summer made a good point the other day. This is an example of how they'll use God's law against us, right? Telling us that, no, you should support this because this is a humanitarian opportunity. This is a humanitarian issue. Humanitarian crisis. There's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, well, it is, but it's not something that we should support, right? Because, and we'll tell you exactly what the biblical principle behind all that is in just a bit.
It's amazing, isn't it?
They just keep coming.
And this is just one location.
Yeah, I mean, look, folks, this is a 2-hour and 40-minute live stream. I'll jump ahead right here just because it keeps happening, the same thing over and over. Look at that. They come in, they walk down, and that happens all day.
Okay, here I'm doing the best I can, folks.
So maybe he'll give us some updates here. I can't remember exactly what points he gave. We'll see right here.
And if more come with the vans, we'll go up to the camp and I'll show you guys the camp. And if more come in the vans or the SUVs, then I will follow that and show you more for people that are just jumping on. This information, this is for reporting purposes. Again, we welcome all opinions. Just be respectful in a sense, this is what's going on. This is what's going on in Akumba. Akumba Springs. At the end of this mountain here, there is a hole in the wall, or the wall ends, and numerous times during the day, SUVs will come up and migrants will come into the United States illegally from this location. Hundreds, if not thousands. I personally saw hundreds at a camp up here yesterday. I've been looking around at other camps. There's a few other ones too. I got some videos out coming out soon on some other locations in the Akumba. It looks like there's 3 particular camps and 3 points of entry where migrants are coming in, where the border wall stops at these like mountains. They stop like there's wall, and then they stop, and it just allows these individuals just to climb in through the hole, or they at the end of the fence.
Right, so let me jump ahead so you can see this camp.
In the rock, and they all just pop their heads out.
And all right, here's the camp.
This out. Border Patrol here wants this talked about.
Oh yeah, there's he was talking about.
Yeah, spread it around. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank.
Let me go back a little bit. Here you go. He's talking to Border Patrol.
Border Patrol.
Now you see there, you see there's some families coming across there, and again, let me explain why you see the women and children coming in. Oh, well, see there, it's a good thing. No, it's a bad thing. You have to watch the Muckraker documentary to see what they come through. I mean, there are dead bodies along the path. People just they fall out on the way up, and so that's evil, right? To fund it and to coerce these people, or to give them some kind of hope or false hope and put them in harm's way like this, to send them out, to coerce them and encourage them to go get into the arms, get into the what's my word here? To be with the cartels. Right, to be taken in by the cartels, and who knows what's going to happen. Yeah,
the cartels are making a huge cut off of this, so that's like their number one focus right now.
Yeah, that's the big point, right? Yeah, that's what like I said. I learned last night is that the drug trade is it's way down right now, because you can make more bringing human beings to the border than you can for bricks of cocaine, and it's easier work. And plus, you're not going to go to jail for it. If they catch you, they're just going to let you go. How about that, folks?
Nice to see you.
Back out again?
Yeah. What's going on, man?
Well, some of the guys saw the video. They want to give you fucking...
Absolutely. Thank you. I know you guys, are hands are tied, you know what I mean?
They're like, hey man, you see that guy? That's
Thank you. Yeah, spread it around. Thank you. All right, so obviously you just heard the Border Patrol thanked me for my videos. They are watching. They're sharing. They want this out. Border Patrol here wants this talked about.
Here's the camp. Just so you can get a look at it here. I don't want to spend too much time. You would like, go ahead and check out his videos. Give him some views. He's doing well with his views right now with his channel, and he's earning it. All right, so
as you saw, it wasn't like here's what as you saw on live while it was going down, multiple vehicles on that side, the Mexico side, would all come at once, and they would drop off in loads, and they would maybe 10 to 20 inside each vehicle. And we did it twice while it was going on, and that's how it works in waves. It's not like any of these individuals have walked up to the border and decided to cross in. They're getting driven here in groups, and then they get out of the SUV, and whoever's the coyote, you want to call them a coyote, cartel, organizer, whoever they are, will instruct them and tell them and line them up and take pictures and also talk on the phone and film themselves of them crossing into the country illegally. And it's an operation. Then the people get back into their vehicles and then they race away, right? And I'm told by Border Patrol here that this happens every single day here, in the morning at least, and then it goes around the clock. It's sporadic. Sometimes it won't go for a few hours, and then it just comes in waves, and it just depends. And it might be possibly a cat and mouse game, because there's pressure from the United States government with Mexico to stop this, and some of the Border Patrol agents told me the Mexican army on the other side will try to stop it. So they might be playing a cat and mouse game on the other side with the Mexican army, and they use windows of opportunity to bring people in and then go back. There's a town across there, I don't forget what it's called, but told there's safe houses there, and these migrants possibly stay in these safe houses, and then when the top opportunity is right and the timing is right, they'll all load up into an SUV, and then they'll race here and go to the end there and then come in. There's also there's one that way a little bit to the east, and there's one to the west, the same situation. There's a hole or something in the wall, or a vulnerability in the wall where the wall ends, and there's it's going up against the rock, and there's just this area that you can cross in, and they're using that so they don't have to climb over the wall, they just go right around it.
Some of the figures that I've read about too, you see different numbers, talked about just depending on where you're looking, but anywhere from $2,000 to $8,000 are the typical charges for the cartels to get inside.
There was a four-wheeler that came on the Mexico side. I'm gonna share the video later on. A four-wheeler came, and the four-wheeler stopped right here on the other side, and the guy came out with chips and water, and he was selling it to the migrants on this side. So the migrants on this side, thank you, Andrea. The migrants on this side would come over with cash, and they would.
So you see, it's a pretty slick operation. Also, let me show you this. Just so you know, it's not an easy task, to keep eyes, to surveil this border. It's over 3,100 miles long. And here's what it looks like. 3,100 miles long. That's huge. That is, and that's what you're dealing with. So you're dealing with from San Diego to Brownsville, Texas. And not all, you can see that really just the western part has walls, and there's tiny bits of wall in Texas, southern Texas. 3,000 miles. So it's very easy for this to go down. We don't have enough agents to cover it, and they know it. You see there, you can see there how it breaks down state to state. Look at that small patch of border there in California, south of San Diego, is 2,600 agents there, 1,100 agents in this other sector. Yuma, almost 1,000, 4,000 agents at the Arizona border, 2,700 in New Mexico, and then, gosh, let's see, that's before about 6, well over 6,000 agents man the borders in Texas, and it's not nearly enough. And you can see there in the graph, the staffing for the border has just, look at that. 1992, there were 3,500 agents. In 2010, there were 18,000 agents. It's a tough job. All right, so that's your Kumbaya. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the secret spots. Now, this is going to be in San Diego, and this is what JLR is calling a secret migrant smuggling on school property. What we're calling migrant bases inside the country.
Jonathan Lee Riches Investigates. I am in San Diego. There is a secret migrant facility here on San Diego School District property. I'm going to take you over here to show you what is going on. There's migrants. It's nighttime going on to buses. And the fence is all covered up. And I just had an encounter with someone who claims that I'm not allowed to be on the property over there and will not answer any questions about what is going on. Check this out.
Now, this is early evening, too. It's not like it's 2 in the morning, right?
Hey, how are you? Media. What's going on?
What?
You got to give it to him. He's got no reservations. Pretty bold. I mean, I'm glad he's there doing it.
Yeah, apparently the community there is very unhappy about all the mesh over the gates. They feel like it's secretive.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want you to see it.
Remove this one. What's wrong?
I'm media.
So you media, you put on my face.
What's going on?
Don't put on my face.
Put what on your face?
Huh?
Put what in your face? Media, what's going on? What's this place?
This is America, my friends.
No,
America.
me, I want to go out. You recording? Huh?
Yeah, I am.
How can you recording somebody in the face? Because you're a media. You better get to come out my face.
Why's that?
Do that, bro.
I didn't hear what you said. What'd you say?
Could just turn around.
Could just be nice and pleasant.
So what's going on in here? There are people that are in here country illegally?
Hey, bro.
Yes, sir.
Hey, bro. Come in close, right?
See what's going on. This is on University Avenue in San Diego. It looks like a group of migrants are loading the bus. Somebody's coming out here right now.
Are we ready to send you employee call?
Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
This is all private property.
Where, right here?
This is all the way up these buildings. This whole cul-de-sac is all private.
Who owns the property?
Right now, can you please step back?
I'm asking, I'd like to speak.
We can talk as we walk
Sure.
this way, please. Thank you.
So, who owns the property?
Right now, it is given to a private organization.
Is it true the school district owns this property?
Not currently.
All right, are you the owner?
I am not the owner.
All right, so what are you asking? You're not. So you're not the owner, but you're asking me to leave.
This private property, yes.
All right, where's the owner? Tell the owner I want to talk to him.
Sir, please
tell
leave
the owner
private
I would like to talk to
Sir,
him.
please leave
Sir,
private
tell the owner I'd like to speak to
Sir,
them.
right now you're trespassing. Please leave.
I'd like to speak to the owner. You're not the owner.
The owner is busy.
Okay, I'd like to speak to the owner or call the cops.
Okay,
I'd
sir,
like to speak
please
to.
leave the property.
I'd like to speak to the owner. Where's the
a
owner?
couple guards out here. There's a gentleman that's refusing to leave.
Not refusing. Not refusing. I'd like to speak to the owner. I'd like to speak to the owner.
I will call the owner once we're on public property.
What?
I will call the owner.
Who owns this property?
Once we're on public property.
Is this a sidewalk?
Yes.
Is this a public sidewalk?
No, it is not.
It's not. So who owns the property?
I will talk to you over here, sir. Thank you.
So what's going on at this facility? So what is here? I am media. What's going on?
I understand your media, sir, and I respect what you're doing.
What's going on?
But we're not going to answer any questions. Please
Why?
stay on
But
the
what's
public.
going on? There's
Please stay on the
buses coming in and out of this place like 24/7.
Please stay on the public sidewalk.
Sidewalk.
This is all public here.
Who owns the
This
property?
is still private here with the gates closed.
I understand that.
Thank you.
Who owns the property?
Thank you, sir, for understanding.
Who owns the property? Can you please get the owner of the property so I can speak to
Sir,
the owner?
please get back on the public sidewalk.
You don't own this property. You don't own
This
it.
is private.
Okay, so let me
Please.
speak to the owner. I'm not refusing.
I will get the owner. Then please.
All right,
stop
let me
coming
speak to the owner.
I will. But please get back to the public sidewalk.
I'd like to speak to the
Please
owner
get back in the
of the
public sidewalk.
property.
Sir, can I please
so I
speak?
can ask the owner if I have permission to be on the property.
do not.
Okay, let me ask the owner.
Okay.
You're not the owner.
I'm telling you, you do not have permission.
You're not the owner. You don't have no say.
You are
until
not
the owner
welcome on
tells
the
me.
site.
Why?
Please go back to the
Why?
public, or
Why?
we're going to have to call the police. I don't want to do that.
Why would you call
Please
the
respect.
police?
This is private property. Please exit. I do not want to have to call the police. Please
What is
exit.
going on out here?
This is private. Please step back to public.
What's going on out here?
Please step back to public.
What's going on out here?
Please step back to public.
What is going on
Please
out
step
here?
back to public. Thank you, sir.
So who owns this property? I don't
If you want
understand.
to get more information, I'll go get you some information.
Please.
Yes,
Doesn't
sir.
this
But please do
remind
not
you
come
of
back. We can call
Maui?
the police. So stay here.
Yeah,
happened
that's a
in
good
Maui?
point. Yeah.
If I can't get any, I'll still come out and try
You're
to
not
find
allowed to know.
Thank
You're
you.
not allowed to look.
What
Yeah,
in the world is
exactly.
going on here? They don't
Yeah,
have
where
people
the
out
in
here.
Maui after the fires
Wild.
in Lahaina,
Who
they
owns
put
the
up
property? Now, this is a
fences
public
just
sidewalk.
like this
They're claiming
and
they own that property there.
to keep anybody from seeing
I mean,
in.
they own this from this point on. Or he's saying that I don't have permission. But what in the world's going on? He's saying I don't have permission, but there have a bunch of migrants going out on buses, as you saw. As you saw. Now, will he come back?
Yeah, not much happens from here, but I do want to show you another instance here where we see, now this is a permanent facility here. Well, it's on a plot of property that was occupied. It was owned by the school, by the school district there in San Diego. The guy said not currently, they don't own it. So apparently what's happening here is it's being rented out from the city or the county or something like that. So let's get a look at what one of these facilities looks like. When
from the drone shot.
Right. This is Tucson, Arizona, a similar facility, and you can tell these are all temporary buildings, and they are. This is what forward bases in like in Afghanistan would look like, something like this. This is a migrant processing facility, and they're everywhere. And you know that this is a military-like operation because look at the order. Look at the way it's run. Back in 2015, Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel flung the doors wide open to a huge wave of refugees and migrants from the war-ravaged Middle East. Many ordinary Germans were eager to show hospitality back then, as for many people elsewhere in Europe. But by the end of that year, nearly 1 million refugees had entered Germany alone, and the public welcome had turned cold. Chancellor Merkel's decision came to be widely unpopular with Germans and the vast majority of Europeans. A year after the rapid influx of refugees began, Pew Research found that 59% of Europeans thought immigrants were imposing a burden on their country, while only a third said that immigrants made their country a better place to live. In Greece, 63% said that immigrants made things worse, as did 53% in Italy. In 2018, Pew found 70% of Italians, almost 60% of Germans, half of Swedes, and 40% of the French and British citizens wanting either fewer or no new immigrants. Barely 10% wanted to continue. In the following years, Merkel's decision to set out the welcome wagon on virtually all European countries included such progressive ones as the Netherlands, France, Denmark, Norway, and Germany itself. And now they've all tightened their immigration controls. Much of the support for populist parties comes from the working class and lower middle class. Let's see. So what I'm talking about here is I want you to understand that over history. I want to share this book with you. We like to keep you on the. We used to call it, Summer, in the years before you got here, we call it the BFC Book Club. Mm-hmm. It's the AOT Book Club now. But so what I'm talking about here is throughout history there were peasant rebellions over the decades or over the millennia, and so Joel Kotkin says here in this book. We'll keep the footage going for you. Will the world's working class accept this continual decline? We're already seeing what might be described as peasant rebellions against the globalist order that is being constructed by the oligarchs and their allies in the clerisy. Now, he uses the word clerisy here. What he means is academia. In recent years, an insurrectionary spirit has surfaced in the Brexit vote, the rise of neo-nationalist parties in Europe, and authoritarian populists in Brazil and the Philippines. And of course, the election of Donald Trump. At the core of these rebellions against the political mainstream lies the suspicion among the lower classes that the people who control their lives, whether corporate bosses or government officials, do not have their interest at heart. Can I get an amen? The slow growth economy that emerged from the Great Recession benefited the financial elite and property speculators, but did little for the vast majority of the people. A reaction against economic globalization and mass immigration, among other policies, has resulted in pronounced movement to the political fringes. So what's describing here really is why we see a big split. You know, we're more divided than ever, right? We have more people on the far right than ever, more people on the far left than ever. So you move to the Middle Ages. The medieval poor did not always accept their miserable situation quietly. The brutal 14th century brought a rash of peasant rebellions and urban insurrections. French peasants burned down manors of the wealthy in Jacquerie in 1358, aiming to destroy all the nobles and gentry in the world. And there would be none anymore. After being routed by armies of nobility and gentry, the insurgents were subjected to a campaign of reprisal that cost an estimated 20,000 lives. So the way this played out over just every time was an uprising and then mass killings of the peasants. The way we look at this today is the peasant rebellion. Look at it one way. The working class in the West or inside the United States, inside America, could be seen as what you're talking about here, the peasant rebellion in the Middle Ages. Or you could look at this from the perspective of how the Roman Empire fell, being invaded slowly and regularly over decades, hundreds of years. In 17th century England, Cromwell's respectable revolution quashed the efforts of levelers to extend Parliament's war against the monarchy into a radical egalitarian reordering of society. Japan, same thing. But in 1917, the peasants rose up to support Lenin's seizure of power. This is the Russian Revolution. When the Soviet regime began to confiscate land for collectivization, the property-loving Muziks rebelled only to be put down ruthlessly. The most powerful peasant rebellion, though, occurred in China in 1843. The rebellion was finally put down more than a decade later with massive loss of life. Some of the Taiping program would later be adopted by Sun Yat-sen, who would overthrow the imperial regime. And then by Mao Zedong, the communist. All right, let's see. We've got another one here. Here's another. Here is from San Luis, Arizona. Here's the border port of entry. Now, this is the section that Summer's got some research to share with you. Let's show this. Let's go ahead and show this section right here. So this is Jonathan Lee Riches again. He's going up to a port of entry, and there's some interesting information here that you can see, and then Summer's going to share some info with you. What's that about?
Yeah, take a look at that sign, folks.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and lay out some of this research you came up with here?
Yeah. So when I was checking this video out, this was only up on the screen for like a few moments, but I of course noticed right away. Okay, let's check this out. What is this? President Joe Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act. Okay, so what this is saying essentially is that the Inflation Reduction Act is funding these border entries to have them overhauled and to have them brought up to speed and up to par, if you will, to the standards of their stakeholders. Okay, so we want it. So again, this is San Luis, Arizona border port of entry. The United States has 167 land ports of entry, also known as border stations, of course. These facilities control entry into or departure from the U.S. for persons or materials. So through the bipartisan infrastructure law, through the Inflation Reduction Act, they are modernizing 20 land ports of entry along the northern border and 6 land ports of entry along the southern border. So of the 21 paving projects, so paving the roads, 6 are on the northern border and 15 are on the southern border. And as you read into this as well, it points out that all lease purchases are on the southern border. So you're thinking lease purchases, what do you mean lease purchases? So let me keep going. The modernized port of entry stations that we're looking at here, this is one of them that you see right here, is being done to, as they say, will benefit the supply chain, labor market, okay, people coming in, labor market, security, climate change resilience, human experience, community livability, and, wait for it, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. So, boom, everybody knows those words. So what it says too as well is the bill will eventually include over 50 projects divided into 4 categories. One being major modernizations, which are 26 projects, paving replacements, 21 projects. Again, this lease purchase, 3 different projects for lease purchases. So you want to think about corporate governance. You want to think about stakeholders. You want to think about ESG and SDG approved. Okay, so again, the projects are located in 12 states. 20 of the modernizations are on the northern border, 6 are on the southern border, and of the 21 paving projects, 6 are on the northern border and 15 on the southern border. One other thing that I wanted to mention is that the construction project is going to be held to a certain standard, right? So basically it's going to be held to the standard of ESG scores, and nothing that happens in these construction projects will happen without the approval of the stakeholders. And as well, they're going to be utilizing what is known as the Border Wizard traffic scope. So the Border Wizard is a computer-based model that simulates cross-border
This sounds
movements.
it sounds really good for us. The Border Wizard. That
Right.
sounds like something that's probably going to be good for us,
So
right?
this is our tax dollars.
Border
This
Wizard.
is the Inflation Reduction Act funding this, overhauling on the northern and southern borders of the United States and making them like state-of-the-art facilities for, and basically setting up like what will work in tandem with the Internet of Things, surveillance, track and trace, state-of-the-art. And of course it has to be, you know, in accordance with what they deem as being sustainable and climate friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is just one of those places where you can see there's construction going on, and it's pretty trippy stuff.
It is. You know, I was telling you just a minute ago how this went down in Europe when this is not new. This has already happened. This has already happened in Europe, and I've told you back in Armor of Truth Flight number 184. This is invasions. That's just the way of history. You know, as Marx hypothesized, that the way history moves on, the way anything happens in the world is by the classes rubbing up against each other. You know, just the clash of those who own the means of production against the workers. But what's interesting is that, everywhere this has happened, even in Sweden, where the citizens have long prided themselves on tolerance, there's widespread anger about rising crime and unprecedented levels of social friction in a formerly homogenous country. Now, today it's anathema to desire a homogenous country, right? You're a racist if you say something like that. Some of the anti-immigrant movements that have sprung up espouse racist views, no doubt, but others are not. It can be sensible. They're just simply opposed to the globalizing policies of elites and their indifference to the concerns of average citizens. Fans of Donald Trump presented images of him as a crusader clad in chainmail with a cross, embroidered on the front. Of course, many people see Trump as a savior. A savior? He's not. But anyway, there's a huge divergence between elite opinion, which generally favors mass immigration, and that of majorities in the working and middle classes. France's President Emmanuel Macron acknowledged this very divergence in 2015 when he said the arrival of refugees is an economic opportunity. And, well, it's just too bad if it isn't popular with the people. This is what causes populist uprisings, like when Donald Trump was elected in 2016, and probably how he's going to be elected again in 2024, because after a certain period of time, people just lose it. This is, they get to a point. Some of the earliest opposition to the Trump administration focused on his agenda of curtailing immigration. Well, that's not going to work this time. Ironically, the people who most strongly favor open borders are welcoming large numbers of immigrants who do not share their own secular progressive values. It's particularly true in Europe, where migrants and refugees from Muslim countries have just been a huge influx of Muslims into Europe. The media and academia tend to promote this idea of erasing identities, at least for the native population, right? See, there's the point. Somebody's losing here, and it's always the native population. If you have something, now if you're middle class, if you're the masses and you have something, the elites don't believe you should have that. They should have it, and they're going to tell you that what you should do is you should share this with everyone. Now, okay, again, using the law of God against us, right? Because that's not what this is. This erasing of identities it's not really popular among working class and middle class people. A cultural conflict between the cosmopolitan, post-national people and the generally less educated but more rooted somewheres, as this Joel Kotkin calls it. People in less cosmopolitan precincts, in other words, outside the capital cities. Well, they tend to remain more strongly tied to national identities, local communities, religion, and tradition. These divisions were particularly evident in the vote on Brexit and the Conservative sweep in the UK in 2019. French, Danish, and Dutch voters have opted against deeper or broader EU ties, preferring a stronger national identity. Less than 10% of EU residents identify themselves as Europeans first, and 51% favor a more powerful nation state, while only 35% want power in Brussels to be increased. So as long as the political and economic elites ignore the people, these populist rebellions against establishment parties are just going to grow and continue. And they could become even more disruptive, because not everybody on our side is going to be thinking rationally. Elite disdain for traditions of country, religion, and family tends to exacerbate class conflict around cultural identity. Liberalism is stupid about culture, observed Stuart Hall, a Jamaican-born Marxist sociologist. Now, in the United States, discontent with the globalist and open borders agenda of the oligarchs and the upper clerisy, academia, resulted in strong working class support for Trump in 2016. He won 2 out of every 5 union voters and won an absolute majority among white males. Like his European counterparts, Trump ran strongest in predominantly white working class and lower middle class areas, precisely the areas hardest hit by globalization. And you might imagine Trump did poorest with well-educated professionals. Funny, too, because Trump came from the business elite. Trump is the business elite. Trump met almost universal opposition from his own class, the dominant classes. Instead, he won over voters who see big corporations as indifferent to the well-being of working people. I've got an article I'll show you in a bit. With the title of it is, "It's Time for the Elites to Rise Up Against the Ignorant Masses." And so the fear here is that this is what causes this insurrectionary spirit. Now, we haven't seen one of those here, right? Back in 2021, in the first month of the year, on the day after the 5th day of the month, you can't say it here. That's not what that was. That's not what that was.
No.
But there's definitely a spirit of insurrection here, because there would have to be.
Well, they're forcing it.
Yeah. this is what led to the Occupy movement. This kind of spirit here is different, back in 2008. What we have now is much different. It's much different. Back then, it was mostly this is mostly libertarian or left-leaning people in the Occupy movement. They called themselves the 99%. Alienation from political mainstream today is resulting in strong support for far-left parties. Again, so this, as I said earlier, we're divided further than ever before. More far-right, more far-left. And this is mostly among the youth. Also apparent in the United States, which historically has not been fertile ground for Marxism until recently. Support for socialism in America has long been anathema. But now it's gained currency in the new generation. A poll conducted by the Communist Memorial Foundation in 2016 found that 44% of American millennials favored socialism, while 14% chose fascism or communism. By 2024, millennials will be, by the way, that's now, 2024. Millennials will be the country's biggest voting bloc by far. Isn't that going to be interesting in November? Democratic capitalist societies need to offer the prospect of a brighter future for the majority. Without this basic need, this basic belief, more demands for a populist strongman or radical redistribution of wealth seem inevitable. The future of the working class should concern us all. If too many lack any hope of improving their condition, we could face dangerous upheaval in the future. So, how do you feel about all this? Now, this is interesting too because, right, we've heard a lot about Greg Abbott in the news the past couple of days, and he's been doing some good things in his responses at the border. But there's a problem, isn't there, Summer? With Abbott, there's something's not right.
Well, there's
there.
something that we just have to take a note. We have to just get a pen and put it on the board.
Yeah, and that is, let's see, that is this. I was just popped up.
Those are the companies that are involved in the
design
that's right, and general contracting.
Yeah, these are the people who are building those port entries.
Right. So your Inflation Reduction Act is building these brand new Border Patrol hubs.
That's right. Let's listen to Greg Abbott's letter that he when he responded to the Supreme Court, who said, well, that was it. Let's just listen. Let's just see what he says. He'll tell us all right here. This is thanks to Joel Webbin and his team there at Right Response Ministries in Georgetown, Texas.
All right. This is the letter that Governor Abbott posted in response to the Supreme Court decision. And to be fair, the Supreme Court decision was a temporary one. The whole case is being heard. This was specifically on cutting down the razor wire, right? So there's a whole lot more that's even going to be coming down the pike, potentially. Here's the letter. The federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states. The executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws protecting states, including immigration laws on the books right now. President Biden has refused to enforce those laws and has even violated them. The result is that he has smashed records for illegal immigration. Despite having been put on notice in a series of letters, one of which I delivered to him by hand, President Biden has ignored Texas's demand that he perform his constitutional duties. President Biden has violated his oath to faithfully execute immigration laws enacted by Congress. Instead of prosecuting immigrants for the federal crime of illegal entry, President Biden has sent his lawyers into federal courts to sue Texas for taking action to secure the border. President Biden has instructed his agencies to ignore federal statutes that mandate the detention of illegal immigrants. The effect is to illegally allow their en masse parole in the United States. By wasting taxpayer dollars to tear open Texas's border security infrastructure, President Biden has enticed illegal immigrants away from the 28 legal entry points along this state's southern border, bridges where nobody drowns, and into the dangerous waters of the Rio Grande. Under President Biden's lawless border policies, more than 6 million illegal immigrants have crossed our southern border in just 3 years. This is more than the population of 33 different states in this country. This illegal refusal to protect the states has influenced unprecedented harm on the people all across the United States. James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and the other visionaries who wrote the U.S. Constitution foresaw that states should not be left to the mercy of a lawless president who does nothing to stop external threats like cartels smuggling millions of illegal immigrants across the border. That is why the framers included both Article 5, Section 4, which promises that the federal government, quote, shall protect each state against invasion, end quote, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which acknowledges, quote, the state's sovereign interest in protecting their borders. Arizona of the United States, you can see the ruling there. The failure of the Biden administration to fulfill the duties imposed by Article 4, Section 4 has triggered Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which reserves to this state the right of self-defense. For these reasons, I have already declared an invasion under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. That authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. The Texas National Guard, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and other Texas personnel are acting on that authority, as well as the state law, to secure the Texas border. Signed, Governor Abbott. Talk about the lesser magistrate.
Yeah, that's the.
Let's listen to Joel for just a moment. This is good
going
stuff.
through the right channels and using God's law first and foremost, but also the Constitution and state Constitution, federal Constitution, and standing up to treason. I mean, it's absolute. Joe Biden is a traitor of the United States and what he's been doing with the border. Wes.
Yeah, you mentioned it. It was in the letter. 6 million illegal immigrants, greater than the population of 33 states. The reason this matters so much, the reason you mentioned it's such a high issue, there comes a point with immigration where you actually don't have a country anymore, where literally the fate has already, it's been decided, where there's a certain point where your own replacement level, so Americans, that replacement, fertility, how many kids on average, where when there's so many people that don't have allegiance to this country, some of them even unregistered, whatever it may be, where literally you could reach the tipping point and then pretty much the story is written in the stars. There's no going back from it. There's no like, oh, we actually, we would like to walk back from this cliff. We walked up to the edge.
So you heard what he said there. There comes a point where you don't have a country anymore.
There it is again.
Yeah.
It just disappears.
This is this line from The Coming of Neo-Feudalism by Joel Kotkin. Here's a line from chapter 15 on peasant rebellions. It says, rather than defend their own values, Europeans and others in the West have been told by their leaders that they, quote, must give up their principles and soul. It's the politics of fait accompli. This erasing of identities. And it's not real popular among folks like us. Now what was I saying? No, there's an issue with Greg Abbott. What's going on with that, son?
Yeah, cue it up.
Let's look at this little clip before we get to Abbott. This is another video that Jonathan Lee Rich found. A military train headed to the border. Headed to the border. Look, I don't know what's going to happen, but
well, you know,
I do see a big 33 there. Just for those of you out there who I do see that. Just so you know, I do see it there. So I don't know. Let's just there's no sound for this.
Well, for sure he was getting tipped off by the Border Patrol agents because they were wanting this information to get out.
Yeah, they were helping him out.
So he was they were helping him out to sort of like be ready for these.
That's good. So there, your Mohawk Rest area. There. This is Yuma. Goodness. It's right here at the very end, huh? He's just showing us the train. He's just showing us where it was. All we get is the thumbnail on this one.
I think you need to back it up because it was in the front of the video.
There it is. I missed it altogether. Wow, look at me. What a pro. There you go.
He's checking out the nature.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is headed down to the border. Far as the eye can see.
It's coming. Wait for it. Wait for it.
With the big 33.
Yeah, there it is. There they are.
Yeah. Construction Battalion. They're not headed to fight in the jungle. They're not.
Those things look like they could use a waxing.
Yeah. They got the sand down there too. So that happened.
Yeah, that happened.
That happened. There's a thing too. But Greg Abbott, you know, you give him credit for the way he's responded to Biden here recently. But in my opinion, it's been going on for 3 years. Is this too little, too late? Is
Why
it
now?
Is
Why
it showboating? Right? Somebody was saying this looks like showboating. Is it come in here at the last minute and try to, you know? I don't know. I want to assume the best of him.
Well, let's just show the articles that we
but
pulled.
He does happen to be thought well of at the World Economic Forum. He's at least listed in their people section there, Greg Abbott. Yeah. Lauded by the WEF. He's, you know, you can see here Governor Abbott to lead economic development mission to Israel and Switzerland. That would be to Davos, once again. And so he's been there. How many? Did you say you knew how many times he'd been?
Well, I believe it's twice.
At least twice he's visited.
According to the Texas Gov News.
Yeah. Well, so has Trump. Trump has been there. I guess, you know, of course, they'll invite presidents. So there's that.
There's that, and that's in the news. We just wanted to provide like several sources for you guys to check out. So you
that's
can
a
see
data point. We call that a data point.
Just documented. Yes, he went to Davos.
A couple times, and he didn't go there to expose anybody like Larry Alex Taunton did. He was there to take part.
Well, and when he was asked if he was on board with Davos or not, he didn't.
He wouldn't denounce them, right?
He wouldn't denounce them.
He did. The thing he did say was, "I'm not a globalist."
And he puts Texas first, but he wouldn't. He wouldn't say anything disparaging, or anything, and he just avoided it.
Yeah.
Like making a statement about it.
All of a sudden, he was in a big hurry.
Yeah. All of a sudden, he was uncomfortable. His body language changed, and yeah.
So replacement migration, definition by the United Nations Population Division, replacement migration refers to the international migration that would be needed to offset population declines in a target country. You can see there on your screen. Replacement migration is a theory of planned migration. It is specifically to achieve a particular objective. Could be demographic, economic, or social. And it always moves. It flows in one direction. Weaker nations or regions replace the population of a developed nation. Now, just, you know, in full transparency here, when you read through it, what they say, it's they're thinking about how to sustain population. This is what they say in the document: how to sustain the populations when the population declines or when the population is aging. What's interesting about this, though, is the UN believes that replacement migration is a solution to declining and aging populations. Shouldn't be a problem for us today, right? Because our population is just going out of control, right? Well, no, not really. They looked at 8 countries, examined 8 countries: France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Republic of Korea, Russian Federation, United Kingdom, and the United States. Also 2 regions, Europe and the European Union. According to the United Nations population projections, Japan and virtually all the countries of Europe are expected to decrease in population size over the next 50 years. What? That's not what I've been hearing. I heard we were
booming at the seams.
Right. Overflowing our borders. For example, the population of Italy, currently 57 million, is projected to decline to 41 million by 2050. This is from United Nations website. I'm not making this up. The Russian Federation is expected to decrease from 147 million to 121 million between 2000 and 2050. Similarly, the population of Japan, currently 127 million, is projected to decline to 105 million by 2050. In addition to the decrease in population size, Japan and the countries of Europe are undergoing a relatively rapid aging process. Well, what do you think? What do you think is going on? Here's something interesting, too, from the Heritage Foundation ran this operation. They ran this, they did some research to find out where these phones, they knew that they were giving the migrants phones. So they said, can we track where those phones go? And of course you can track them. That's the whole point, to have the phone, right? Well, the Heritage Foundation looked at non-governmental organizations and their role in the unprecedented mass migration of illegals into the interior of the U.S. By tracking the devices allegedly owned by the illegal aliens, NGOs helped these migrants move to every congressional district in the United States, except for one. The 4-phase preliminary investigation conducted in January, a year ago, was released in a memo in December of 2023 and is merely a sampling of the problem. So this is not even the full problem. According to the December 5th memo, the Heritage Oversight Project and Heritage Border Security and Immigration Center obtained and analyzed movement patterns of anonymized mobile devices that were detected on the premises of over 30 NGO facilities at or near the borders. So this is, as they say, reliable human source information. Heritage found about 30,000 cell phone devices in the identified NGO facilities, tracing them during January 2022. Let's just get right down to so you can see what's going on. Now, let's see. The Heritage investigation traced more than 22,000 unique mobile devices in Phase 2. The NGOs in this phase were located in Texas, Southern California, and Arizona. The devices migrating from those facilities were traced to 431 separate U.S. congressional districts out of 435. 71% of the devices went to Republican congressional districts. Of course, right? That's what they want to do, to water it down, which is not surprising, since Texas is a border state and Oklahoma, also a conservative state, is its neighbor. So let's get better here. There you go. There is a look at, as they come up and cross into the United States, you can see where they go. An example of how surveillance has worked to our advantage for once. We can see exactly what's going on. Is anybody curious? I mean, is anybody skeptical about whether or not we're seeing an invasion here? All the way down.
Keep in mind the U.S. Customs Border Protection mobile app, that CPB mobile app, has been in the news this week because TSA, the scandal with TSA, that you can use the app to then use it to fly domestically, and you don't need to have a photograph.
Yeah, so they can just move around the country. Wouldn't that be really handy if you were a terrorist? Wow, how easy, how nice would that be to have that kind of anonymity?
Plausible deniability.
Look at this chart, folks. As we move through 2020, we come up the Biden administration. There's January of 2021 and Biden's inauguration, that fateful day. This is monthly unlawful entry encounters. Look how it just all of a sudden skyrocketed when Biden took office. Come on, folks. Do we know what's going on yet?
And the incidence of violence against Border Patrol agents has skyrocketed too. Like, it's more than doubled in the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's a bad one too. So here's another. Just follow up more on the concept of replacement migration, just to show you the World Economic Forum is talking about it. It's time to rethink migration, right? How can we get rich off this? The working age population, high income, and many middle income countries is shrinking. Again, folks, do they just tell us what's convenient? All they ever say is how, we're going to run out of food and we're going to run out and water and right now it's right now. We got
to scramble. We got to bring more people in.
It's time to rethink migration. Over much of the world, birth rates are plunging and populations are aging. This means that there will be fewer workers to support older people and growth. And this means that most countries will increasingly need to rely on migration. Really? Well, that would be fine if people just decide to migrate, but that's not really what's happening now with it. Making the most of migration. Listen to this. Making the most of migration. These are businessmen, folks. It's the World Economic Forum. They're there to figure out how to profit. Making the most of migration through smart policies.
Don't forget about the multicultural policy that we discussed in the show before last. Multicultural policy and how that's been, across the Anglosphere.
Yeah.
And through that policy, basically, it enables all of these things as well. It's one of the facets with migration.
Yeah. We talked about in 184, we talked about multiculturalism, and we talked about Anglophobia.
Yes.
Summer defined it and gave us some research from the book Anglophobia, which we showed on the show. We gave the link so you could check that
So what
out.
it does is it sets the precedent for why people in the Anglosphere should just open their doors wide open to everybody coming in and flooding their nations, because Anglos are not a protected people when it comes to that. We don't have the right to close our borders, according to multicultural policy.
Anglos, that just means white people, white European descent, are being replaced all around the world. Okay, the IOM, International Immigrant. What is it? What's it called? It's down here somewhere.
Yeah, IOM.
International Organization for Migration.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. I just want to show you this site, because if you watch the Muckraker documentary, you'll see this group all along every one of those stops right up through there. Right up through the migration path, and this is IOM is they're located in Geneva, and they're under the umbrella of the United Nations, right?
Yes, they are.
And look at this. Check out this particular chapter here: harnessing the power of migration, strategic plan results in architecture.
AKA culture jamming and disrupting.
Yeah. I like its objective one: saving lives and protecting people on the move. How about, save their lives by don't push them into this. Harnessing the power of migration. That's about profit. That's about control and power. That's what that is. Facilitating pathways for regular migration. Regular migration. That means to keep it happening we have to make sure that it happens, it keeps going all the time. That is exactly how the Roman Empire was not really conquered, just replaced, just completely replaced. It didn't really fall, it was just replaced.
Well, and you think about Klaus Schwab's Fourth Industrial Revolution and the Internet of Things, and this is like herding. They're herding people like human cattle.
That's right.
And they're going to have, like what we just discussed, they're going to have their hubs, their Border Patrol hubs with state-of-the-art technology, surveillance, tracking and tracing, all of this, the mobile app, the whole shebang.
Absolutely. Just to swing back around to what we were talking about earlier, when this happened in Germany, happened in Europe, happened in Sweden. Sweden is a case study, folks. Today, they were invaded like this years ago. And today, Sweden's violent reality is undoing a peaceful self-image. Shootings have become so common that they don't even make the headlines anymore. All right, so that's Sweden. Here's that article. The reign of the elites is crumbling in Europe, too. I think this is true, right? Because I think what we see from the globalists today is desperation. The natives are restless everywhere, and they're frightening the elites. The political parties of the Social Democrats and even the socialists are crumbling all across Europe. A new version of class war is shaping a new kind of politics, and the implications are worldwide. Trying to find clues to what's ahead for America by examining the entrails of European politics is a fool's errand. Europe, even with its treasure of arts, literature, and music, is, after all, what the first settlers escaped from. Barack Obama and his friends set out to transform America into a version of the European welfare state. But the republic was saved, at least for a while, by the bell. In 2016, the Trump phenomenon, with all its populist bells and whistles, echoes across Europe. The Socialist Party in France was the governing majority only 2 years ago, and last year it won only 7% of the vote. The party has all but disappeared in Parliament. Germany's prevailing Social Democrats fell into winning only 20% in elections this year, and the Democratic Party in Italy didn't do much better. Now, this is what's important for you to know, because the backlash is happening. Now, I know, there are a lot of you who rightly so are going to hear this and say, well, this is how they've planned it, right? This is the Hegelian dialectic. This is the totalitarian tiptoe. They're just orchestrating all of this. Maybe, probably, I don't know, but this is what's happening nonetheless. So this is, how do we think about it? What do we do about it? So here's, I wanted to share this with you. Let's play Jamie Dimon first. Jamie Dimon is a J.P. Morgan Chase CEO. He's a billionaire. And he's been critical of Trump the whole time, for years now. So what you're going to hear him say is sort of representative of what you're hearing a lot of the ruling, I'll just call them the ruling class elites are saying right now. So check this out.
They're actually looking at people voting. We've got this great hand, but when people say MAGA, they're actually looking at people voting for Trump, and they think they're voting, and they're basically scapegoating them, that you are like him. But I don't think they're voting for Trump because of his family values. Now, if you look, just take a step back, be honest. He was kind of right about NATO, kind of right about immigration. Mm-hmm. He grew the economy quite well.
By the way, this is at Davos.
Tax reform worked. Mm-hmm. He was right about some of China. I don't like what he did.
No, I said China virus.
Yeah, I understand. He may have been right. And I don't like how he said things about Mexico. But he wasn't wrong about some of these critical issues. And that's why they're voting for him. And I think people should be a little more respectful of our fellow citizens. And when you guys have people up here, you should always ask the why. Not like it's a binary thing. You're supporting Trump, you're not supporting Trump. Why are you supporting Trump?
It's hard to hate 75 million of your fellow Americans. And
I agree.
It's done
Again, I'll correct,
the Democrats have done a pretty
it's 81 million.
This makes me think about Larry Alex Taunton. We watched he went into Davos this year, like as a spy or whatnot, and he said that the talking points that they were talking about is that Russia and Trump were their two things that they're afraid of, supposedly. So, and then plus we know with Davos and the World Economic Forum, their big thing that they want to do this year is build trust.
That's right.
So what you're seeing is a campaign of trying to build trust with people right now. They want to look very reasonable.
So you see this. Last week we shared the video, as many people did, of Javier Milei in speaking at Davos.
Well, even the Heritage Foundation guy was invited
we got that
to
right
speak
here
as well.
We'll play that for you right now too. Listen to this from, I'm going to put it speed it up just a tad so we can keep the show moving. But Mark Roberts, Dr. Mark Roberts from the Heritage Foundation was invited to the World Economic Forum, as was Javier Milei. Now, they do this not because they're interested in dissenting opinions. They do it, as Larry Alex Taunton said, to make themselves look reasonable, right? Well, how can you criticize us?
Yeah.
We're allowing all these dissenting opinions here.
I think they want to say that, it comes across like we are reasonable, but also it is a way to have their crowd, if you will, very schooled and educated on what all the talking points would be that are in the opposition, right? No better person to come in and speak on behalf of the opposition than somebody who, so that they know what all of our points would be and they can construct their arguments accordingly.
That's exactly what Dr. Roberts does here. So this is not Dr. Roberts, the man who's going to speak next. It is. He's from the Heritage Foundation, and listen to this.
It's laughable that you would, or anyone would, describe Davos as protecting liberal democracy. It's equally, standing up for it. It's equally laughable to use the word dictatorship at Davos and aim that at President Trump. In fact, I think that's absurd. But I'm going to step aside from that constructive criticism and instead answer your question. Yep. And I'm going to be substantive here. President Trump, if he's the next president, for that matter, I think whoever the next conservative president, is going to take on the power of the elites, which I mentioned earlier. But the thing that I want to drive home here, the very reason that I'm here at Davos, is to explain to many people in this room and who are watching, with all due respect, nothing personal, but that you're part of the problem. Political elites tell the average people on 3 or 4 or 5 issues that the reality is X, when in fact reality is Y. Take immigration. Elites tell us that open borders and even illegal immigration are okay. The average person tells us in the United States that both rob them of the American way of life. They're right. President Trump will take that on behalf of the average American. Elites also tell us that public safety isn't a problem in big American cities. Just travel to New York or Washington or Dallas, Texas. The average person will tell you that the lack of public safety damages not just the American way of life, but their life. President Trump will take that on. Thirdly, I guess the favorite at the World Economic Forum is climate change. Elites tell us that we have this existential crisis with so-called climate change, so much so that climate alarmism is probably the greatest cause for mental health crisis in the world. The solutions, the average person know, based on climate change are far worse and more harmful and cost more human lives, especially in Europe during the time that you need heating, than do the problem and the problems themselves. Fourth, 2 more here, Robin. Okay. The fourth, China. The number one adversary, not just to the United States, but to free people on planet Earth. Not only do we at Davos not say that, we give the Chinese Communist Party a platform. Count on President Trump ending that nonsense. And fifth, as we sit here, another supranational organization, the World Health Organization, is discussing foisting gender ideology upon the global South. These are practices that are under review, if not being rejected, by countries in Northern Europe. The new president, especially if it's President Trump, will, as you like to say, trust the science. He will understand the basic biological reality of manhood and womanhood. And do you know why? Not because of retribution, not because he's a dictator, but because he has the power of the American people behind him. And it's connected to Senator Portman's excellent point that in addition to needing a vigorous executive, we look forward to having the popular will inform both the House and Senate in 2025 to pass laws on all of those issues and many others. Ultimately, Robin, I think President Trump, if in fact he wins a second term, is going to be inspired by the wise words of Javier Milei, who said that he was in power not to guide sheep, but to awaken lions. That's what the average American and the average free person on planet Earth wants out of leaders.
Okay, how about this, Summer?
Good luck. We're all counting on you.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Well, okay, there you go. There you have it. That's the narrative as it is today in the world, at the World Economic Forum, among the global elites. Whether or not you think this is
and remember,
dialectical materialism at work or it's a natural
well,
grassroots.
It's a PR campaign, no doubt. I mean, they did state this is a year of building trust.
Or anyone would.
They're building trust. So,
well, maybe they have their hands full. Maybe they can't recover. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I like to be hopeful. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. And I like to try to think the best of folks, except for Klaus Schwab. And what I want you to take from this, folks, is something since Trump won Iowa and New Hampshire, there's been a seismic shift in the narrative. These people are saucer-eyed. They're afraid. Something has happened. Like something's going on that's not really out of our control. Or you might think, and my wife probably does feel this way, that this is probably, I don't know, you tell us. I don't want to speak for you on this. What do you think this is organic?
Well, I would be more inclined to think that because they've put forward that they want to build trust, they've got to do things like this. They've got to make concerted public efforts to look reasonable. That's
a good answer, and I think that I'll agree with Larry Alex Taunton that that people say that Javier Milei, that was controlled opposition. There's no reason to go that far that he's controlled opposition. The way he stood there and
but he could be,
and owned the position of anarcho-capitalism, libertarian values, Ludwig von Mises and Murray Rothbard.
He's got a WEF connection.
Right, but he's still, he's still, just like Greg Abbott.
Yeah.
Greg Abbott still did the right thing here, although it was too late. So we just have to wait and see.
It doesn't matter if he's sincere about it or not. The end result is they're going to somehow along the way use it as, they're going to weaponize it. Somehow along the way they'll make a mockery of it. They'll somehow figure that out. Right now, they're letting these people speak their minds, come up and speak reasonably. But at some point, they'll do something to shame those characters and then to crush people's hope.
What about, now let's leave the folks, we said we would, we got a funny video to play out for you, but we wanted to tell the people what is the biblical perspective on what we see happening right now in our country with this invasion. I'll start out. Do you have yours? Do you have your? Go ahead. I think of it this way. We want you to understand this because they're using the law of God against you. Like they're trying to use, righteous action. They're saying that's what they're doing. This is righteous action. You can't go against this because this is righteous. Don't you believe your Bible?
Yeah. And like in the Old Testament, God called his people to protect, care for, and promote justice for vulnerable members of societies, such as widows, orphans, the poor, and foreigners. And there's lots of scriptures backing that up for how you're supposed to treat the sojourner, for how you're supposed to treat the foreigner. So there's a biblical precedent that our enemies, if you will, would be well aware of, but they weaponize that against us with this.